Hey everybody, happy Friday. I am very happy to be back in the northwest corner, having gotten my first real night of sleep in quite some time. Have been living largely in Hartford for the last 2 weeks and many hours and not much sleep for the first 3 days of this week until we gavelled out of the regular legislative session at midnight on Wednesday. First, substantively, I will write up what the status of things is so far as we figure out, we're now sorting out which bills passed in the House and the Senate, some of which we know because they're big bills, other which are smaller bills, pieces of which may have moved in other, if the bigger bills died, pieces of them may have moved in other pieces of legislation, and that takes a little time to sort out. So we'll be sorting that out. And also, the governor is starting to sign our legislation. So that'll start coming out in the coming days and weeks too. But I thought I'd talk a little bit about the sort of the intensity of particularly, of the last couple of weeks, but particularly those last 3 days as, human beings often don't get their homework done on time, or things come up and, it just, the negotiations intensify as you get to those final 3 days. And of course we do the financial bills in that final week, because in finance in particular, our final bill tends to include a lot of other little pieces of legislation that may not have fit somewhere else, but that have broad bipartisan support. So they tend to be complicated and they tend to come late. But what I wanted to talk about a little bit was just those sort of when you spend that many hours together with all of your colleagues in the chamber, in various negotiating rooms, in and out of leadership offices, with advocates, with members of the executive branch, with staff, all kinds of things. You spend many hours, of course, a lot of which is discussing policy, but a lot of which is personal. And I, for example, started off the week. We eat a lot together. They feed us at what seems like half-hour intervals, which we chip in at the beginning of the year to pay for meals, and then they feed us in some increasingly bad snacks sometimes as days get later and later. I myself started the week bringing in a bunch of chocolates from Thorncrest Farm and put them on a bowl on my desk in the chamber, which I discovered had to be replenished quite a bit because they were very popular, not surprisingly. And I learned the preferences of various of my colleagues across the whole chamber as we were all kind of paying attention to who had what kinds of snacks available to keep us awake and cheerful. But, those some of that seems trivial, but really it is a big part of what enables us to discuss difficult things when we have to. And if we do hard things, we have to have difficult conversations. And you can do that better when you've had a conversation about chocolate or footwear or pets or family or you name it. Just the lighter things in life and the things that we all have in common with one another really help us, form the bonds of trust that enable us to get to the harder stuff. So it seems trivial sometimes, but it's actually quite important. And as I have said frequently, I hope it is a culture we choose to adopt in the House in particular. I'll talk of my part of the legislature. Because we do talk a lot to each other, and that makes a difference. You also learn a lot about people's negotiating styles, and the people that I admire the most, and I hope I include myself in this category, negotiate from a place of trying to, even when somebody is really, even when it's someone, who's got very different priorities than you, from a kind of figuring out what your common purpose is and what it is that you're trying to achieve and what each side is trying to achieve. And that is, first of all, almost never binary. There are many sides to an issue and many stakeholders involved in it. And when you talk about principles, of your own principles and those of another party at the table who is negotiating in good faith, you can find common ground. And when, cutting grass near me. When there are a few people who think negotiation is, I have what I want, and I'm going to find out what you want and take that away from you so that you will give me what I want. That is inherently divisive and drives you further apart. But, that's the way some people negotiate, and you have to kind of deal with it and find a way to get around that. But you learn which people, and this is not a partisan issue, this is you learn which people across the political spectrum negotiate that from a place of principle and finding a commonality of compromise. And those who see it as a zero-sum game or a sports match of some kind. And I had a lot of those conversations, and I know I've been actually having conversations with colleagues, and even today, at a local event about how certain people do the zero-sum game negotiation. So we'll keep working on that one. I was very glad to return to the district today for a ribbon cutting for the new health center in Canaan, which won't necessarily be a big deal to the entire district, but to most of it. I think it's important to 5 of the 9 towns that I represent. So it is a big deal, and it is a beautiful, beautiful place. Those who have worked on it, I mean, not only are the healthcare professionals of top quality and dedication to the patients that they serve, but everyone involved in the process, the construction team, the, architects, the artists and the decorator who worked on it, all did it out of dedication to their community to make this a place of warmth and respect and calm and grace and love. And it's a wonderful place, and I look forward to it being here for many, many years to come. So that was a reminder for me in particular because sometimes some of the bills that I run are a little bit dry because they have titles like, anyway, I'll skip that for another, but long sets of, financial related titles which sound kind of boring, but it includes bonding, and, bonding support from the state was a big part of how we were able to get that healthcare center done. So, it matters, it makes a big difference. I hope you have a Mother's Day this weekend, and I hope wherever you are in relation to mothers, I hope that it gives you an ability to either be celebrated or to celebrate somebody else, or just to thank the people in your life who've mothered you when you needed it. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.